and welcome to episode 508 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vincent, and joining me as always is the artist and creator of the epic webcomic series Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And he's looking at his shelves. Hardbacks or softbacks, Tony? Which do you prefer?
I prefer the hard or the soft option.
He always loves the hard, does Tony Esmond. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Good to be here.
It's wonderful to be here, indeed. Yeah, we're in a lively mood this evening.
Yeah, we are. We've just been laughing so much we've been crying a bit.
Yeah. And we've got a fun show for you
Dan's
this
got a
week.
story for us.
Yeah, possibly. Do we do the story pre-interview or post? What?
Look at his face. He's
do it post.
Oh,
right, okay. Likes to build it up. But we have quite a rack of things to talk about on this week's episode.
Big rack.
I mean, there was more than 2 massive points made during the...
Got to keep abreast of these comics being made in the indie world.
You totally
that's what
do.
we're here for.
You totally do indeed.
Otherwise we make tits out of ourselves.
He's gone too far now.
Dan, you totally brought down the tone of this show. I just, as always, with your filth and perversions. But welcome to the show, everyone. Plenty of comics to talk about, and of course, we spoke to Boo Rudetoons this week, and that interview is coming up in just a second, which was a laugh, and we learned a lot. But there's quite a lot of bit of crowdfunding talk and like.
Yeah, definitely, totally. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Variant cover talk. Yeah, tears.
Yeah.
And also, he wasn't exactly what we expected, which you'll find out.
And if you've read any of Boo's comics, you may, and you think, oh, they're on the Awesome Comics Podcast, you probably think it's just going to be an hour of filth, but it's not. We've done it again where we've actually produced some thoughtful, quality content. Yeah. And it's all thanks to the guests, because the quality content has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
No.
I only got 50%, didn't I, in the influence bingo as well this week? Only 50%.
It was a tough one. I think you did well.
Yeah.
It was a tough
I was
one.
glad we won them. Nice spot on one of them.
Yeah. But yeah, all of that to come, as well as lots of recommendations this week, and shout outs, etc. But this week,
without further ado,
Dan, that was a bit dramatic.
I'm posh.
Yeah.
I do like it when you're
posh.
Go posh.
Was that posh? Is that what you consider?
Bit Shakespearean, wasn't it? Bit Shakespearean.
Was it? Oh, I suppose you said further ado, doesn't he?
Yeah, a bit sort of theatre.
We're highbrow, aren't we?
No, certainly not after this interview.
Fucking hell. Get us on the Guardian podcast. Anyway, enough of that. Here's an interview talking about comics. Listen. Right then, it's an exciting one this week. I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to go, considering the content. This week we're joined by the creator of such titles as Vegan Cave Girl, Black Boomerang, Flag Force, War Nurse, and many more. Dan Butcher sort of put this creator on our radar.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he's on your radar, you're not going to forget about it. Welcome to the show, Boo Rudetoons.
Thank you. Hello. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, that's
a North Yorkshire accent wasn't. I love Yorkshire, but it wasn't what I was expecting, Boo. I've got to be honest with you. I thought you'd be some sort of Vegas hipster.
Hipster. All right. Hello. I'm from Yorkshire.
So obviously we've spoken about your books a couple of times on the show, and your work, which is very. We're going to get on to lots of. Probably some sexy talk at some point.
Yeah.
During
this
this
is another
chat.
Blue episode coming your way.
Yeah. But of course, as we always do, just to kick us off, what is your origin in comics, and how did you sort of come to
go
create
from
them
reading
yourself?
them to making them? I'm guessing.
Yeah. So I've worked in comics for about over 20 years. I started off doing commissions, making money the normal way. I got into working for IDW, Hasbro, doing Transformers animated for them, working on Marvel DC licensed product art, cover art. I've run teams of artists, and the comics I was doing were getting sold in comic shops. They were getting sold in Toys R Us, packed with action figures and stuff.
Cool.
And that was really great work, but you were just a cog in the machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You draw a really great page, and the next day they'd go, sorry, Hasbro's changed its requirements for that. Here's the new character designs. You've got to scrap everything. And I really didn't like that aspect. So I got more into creating my own comic books and then putting them on Kickstarter, getting them funded, because that's a great way to get straight to a comic market that wants to buy comics, and then ended up sending them all over the world and stuff. So it's been 20 odd years, but it's long hours, lots of drawing.
Was there a kind of inciting incident when you was kind of doing the full-time kind of the corporate work that was like, right, that's it, that's the fucking straw that's broke the camel's back?
Because you have kind of reacted massively the other way with it, haven't you?
Yeah.
Because for those that don't know, there's a shitload of nudity in your comics, brilliantly done. But, this seems to be very opposite from what you say was in the back of toys in Toys R Us,
Well, actually, that's the crazy thing. When I first started, I would get told by a lot of different editors, oh, we can't hire you because you're drawing boobies. But the only way I could make money on commissions was to draw funny boobies and lots of character. And then Chris Ryle, who was in charge of IDW at the time, I sent in a thing. I said, hey, I'd like to work on the comic and stuff. But by the way, I must warn you, if you look up my name, I draw boobies. And he went, I don't care. That's fine. That's awesome.
Right, man.
I love this drawing you've done of Starscream eating a human baby. So I'll put you on the comic straight away. And so, that's just how it happened.
I think that's good to hear, though. I think, that the self-awareness of an artist's personal style, because obviously it completely works for you. You're brilliant at it, but you're also completely aware that if you're working with other sort of publishers and companies, you said straight away, just to let you know, this is what I do. And like some people probably just wouldn't think about that. They wouldn't do that. They just expect, oh, they're going to hire me because I'm great. But people have to be aware of the content they're putting out in their own way, don't they?
Yeah, that's right. When I was drawing the Transformers animated comics, because those comics were aimed at kids and teenagers and adults, there was one issue that was full of dead bodies everywhere, and I said, I've drawn the dead bodies, and they went, we want more dead bodies. We want them more dismembered. And I was like, okay. So I gave them what they wanted. When I drew some comic covers for, I can't remember the publisher now, but it was when Dan Mendoza had his Zombie Tramp comic going through a different publisher. I was drawing the boobies and stuff on the covers, and the editor came back and went, yeah, could you make those boobies bigger? I want them even bigger. I want the covers even more explosive. And I went, okay, if that's what you want, that's what I'll do. But when I do my own comics, everybody thinks that I draw full sex scenes and stuff, but I don't. I only ever do comical nudity. Like, if a superhero is nigh invulnerable, their costume is going to get ripped off. It's going to explode. And so I just make a joke out of that, and who wants to look at buildings in the background for every single page, like you get when you're reading Spider-Man? So I'll draw giant boobies in the background. I'll do something that's funny and entertaining instead.
That's one of the things I really like when you kind of like you got a scene transition or in a bit of a kind of a story breakdown, and then there's this like a nude woman in the background, and it's just like, this is fucking hilarious because it's an instant laugh at me. It's just is
it Flag Force where there's their HQ is downstairs covering her bits? Is that I think that's a great page. That
There's a girl sitting in the Flag Force base, is kind of like in front of her parts, as it were. That's a great way you put it. Comical nudity. That's
exactly.
Yeah, that's it. But being playful with it, being playful with the pages. I want to get the jokes in. I want to get the story in. Everybody says they turn up for the boobies, but they stay for the characters, and they stay for the way I do the stories fast and write them quick, And so I always want to do what people know they expect from my comics, so that they always get what they want. But because I'm a vegan, I've been vegan over 30 years, I slide my vegan agenda in there sideways into the pages, slide my environmentalism in there. And I've had people say, oh, yeah, I've read your comics, and then I've had this happen to me. And because of your comics, you made veganism accessible for me. And now suddenly I'm vegan, and I'm trying to get my wife to go vegan. And it goes in with their fitness, or like me, I'm a couch potato vegan. And I'm like, brilliant. That's the kind of feedback I want. You've enjoyed my boobies, and now I've taken over your life and influenced you.
Now you're a vegan.
Yeah.
Well, porn does lead a lot of technology, they say, don't they? I know it's that's the reason we've got we had VHS tapes back in the day and all this sort of thing. Pornography does lead to many other things.
Yeah.
The changes. That's the reason we have AI. Let's face it, which is not a great thing, but if it comes from pornography, people, that's where the big steps are made in it.
Yeah.
I don't mind AI. I don't get worried about AI, because when everybody switched to drawing on digital tablets, there were a lot of jobs that I wasn't getting because I draw traditionally. And now everybody's panicked about AI, just like in ye olde days when everybody worked on the fields and then the tractor and harvester were invented and everyone said we're going to lose our jobs. But the thing is, I own my characters now. I own all my comics and creations. So AI can't steal that. It can't steal what you own. All it can do is take the what I call freelance jobs, you know what I mean? The everyday jobs where you're working on other people's stuff. So I don't worry about AI that much for me, because it doesn't affect me as long as I own my own work. I can see how it's costing a lot of other people jobs, but photography put a lot of artists out of work back in the day when it was invented.
True.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Stuff will screw everybody over.
Yeah.
It's that old thing of a new technology coming along and kind of you either kind of adapt or die, essentially. I mean, there's definitely problems with AI, but there's you have to kind of learn to live with it, because it's not going to be going away anytime
Sadly
soon.
not. Yeah.
And obviously you're with your comics, and you've built up a following and an audience, which is now sustaining, like with the, and growing with each new title that you're bringing out in crowdfunding and stuff. But how did that build up? Because obviously you've got the start, and now when you see it, you know what you're getting with a Boo Rudetoons.
It's a difficult thing to promote, I guess, isn't it? In a way.
No, actually, it's not that difficult. When I started out working freelance and doing commissions, it was many, many years ago back on DeviantArt. And I made friends with Jason Martin, who was knocking out Super Rio. I made friends with Dan Mendoza before he created Zombie Tramp. I had lots of different indie friends, and I created Vegan Cave Girl, and I put it out there. And it's kind of like, all you have to do is you just make sure if there's any nudity, you just put a funny censored word across the boobies so that social media won't kick you in the butt about it. And then kind of the right people come and find you. And then I've had 20 odd years to groom the right people to come and find me.
Probably not a great phrase, but I'll go with it.
I only started on Kickstarter a couple of years ago, and that's been amazing. You know what I mean? It brings in the money so that making my own comics is my full-time job.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, I know what you're saying about the censoring thing. I know Tim Vigil, I'm a fan of his work, and he's fallen foul of that quite a lot. I mean, virtually weekly at one point, Tim Vigil was getting thrown off Instagram, wasn't he?
That guest we talked about a couple of weeks ago, is it EPK?
Oh, yeah.
EPK? He's kind of like had to move his other stuff off Instagram because he's got flagged repeatedly.
Oh, okay.
It's like, man, you can get fucking see people getting killed on Instagram. And it's like someone drawing some boobs, and that's a problem.
That's what happens if you press the little magnifying glass on Instagram for me and Dan. It's mostly people being killed. Yeah.
Well, I do that a lot in my comics. I kill a lot of people. I blow a lot of people up. I used to kill a lot of supervillains. I'd invent them on one page and then blow them up and kill them on the same page. But then my mum, who reads all my comics as soon as I've drawn them, and my collector's like, we really like that villain. So I was like, and that villain is back alive again. And he's being blown up in the next issue.
That's the magic of comics.
Yeah.
So how do you go about, do you kind of write a script, or you just kind of like, here's the comic, I'm going to end it here, and I'm just going to kind of travel there?
Never write a script. Scripts are for pussies. That just takes that.
That's from the Alan Moore masterclass.
Yes, more scripts. I hit the paper with the pencil. I have a joke in my head. I have a rough plot in my head. I know how many pages I want to go for. So if I want to do a small mini comic, I'll go for 12 pages, and that has to include the cover, inside cover, back cover. So I know how many pages I've got to fit a story in, and I fit the story into those pages. And occasionally, if I'm a few pages short or I don't know what I'm doing in the middle, I just invent it on the spot. No time for script writing. Everything goes straight on the page.
Interesting.
So would you kind of like, you start drawing, and then you kind of go out for a walk or whatever you're going to do, and then you think, oh, hold on, I've got an idea there. I can work that into. So obviously you're not producing the book out in like 1 or 2 days. It's going to be a week or whatever, a couple of weeks. So a lot can kind of change but it's kind of like jazz scripting in a way. Do you know what I mean? You kind of freestyle as you go along.
Yeah. A bit of yeah. I'm not. There's a comic I'm drawing at the moment. Because I'm currently drawing the comics for the Big Guns Kickstarter that finished a little while ago, and I had most of the pages drawn, and I thought I need some action, but a joke in there for the last 2 pages, and of course the Tesla places are all getting like burnt down and shot up and everything. People are protesting. I went, that's going in. So I immediately started drawing like evil police with their riot shields and getting bashed, and the superhero from the comic is kicking butt, and it just went straight in, and it worked.
So there's a certain sort of spontaneity to it, you know, like I hear about South Park. You know, they can keep it so fresh because the animation is obviously quick.
Yeah, from story to screen is quicker, isn't it?
Yeah. But what are the? I mean, that's obviously a process that works brilliantly for you. But have there been any times where there have been it has been more of a problem for you? Like you get a page and you're halfway through and you think, oh, that joke doesn't work. What with this sort of process, which isn't for everyone. How do you? What are the problems, and then how do you sort of get over them?
So when I draw a lot of sketch covers, right? For anybody that doesn't know that's listening, a sketch cover is a blank front cover on a comic book, and an artist or anybody really can draw an original cover on it. I draw a lot of them. I've drawn hundreds of thousands of them for collectors, and if you screw up that sketch cover, that whole comic is gone.
It's a responsibility in it.
Yeah. So I don't screw up. I nail a sketch cover over and over again. And that teaches you that when you're drawing comic pages, if you draw a page and for some reason it doesn't work, find a way to fix that page, which most of the time you can, or as you draw the comic, you self-edit the comic. You know what I mean? You can go, right, the first 5 pages work brilliantly, but actually 2 pages in that middle section, I don't need them. I take them out and I'll recycle them and reuse them in a different comic later where it actually fits in.
Because obviously if you're kind of doing these books as a way of making a living, you can't just like, oh, fuck it, I'm not going to get paid for those 3 or 4 days, however long it took you to do that stuff. That's not really an option.
No, exactly. I put out a lot of comics. I'm very prolific. I have a lot of sci-fi comics, fantasy comics, superhero, action, busty comics. And because they all share the same characters, it's the same universe, it allows me to take some pages in one comic and go, you know what, actually, that would fit into Flag Force. Or to take something I was doing in Black Boomerang and shift that around to one of the other comics. Because Black Boomerang pops up in my Majesty comics and Flag Force comics and vice versa. So for the creative process, it's really helpful. The way I make comics isn't for everybody, but it works for me.
That's
well,
fine,
you've got an audience for it as well. So it works. You know what I mean? You can't argue with the results in that regard.
Couple of questions, Boo. Do you use models? And if you do, can I meet them?
I know a lot of people who work in the adult industry because they follow and collect my work. I'm friends with some of them online, but I live in a little village with 11 cottages in the middle of the countryside. I don't go out socializing with anybody. So nobody's getting to meet the people I know.
Fair enough.
But I don't, when it comes to actually drawing the pages, 99% of the time, it's no models, no references. I'll only look things up if, like, I'm using a particular place. Like, if you say, I want to use New York City, I go, right, I need something that looks New York City-ish. I'll give that a Google. If I'm making cars or something like that, like if I'm doing old rat rod cars, I'll have a Google of old rat rod cars, get them in my head, and then I can just make it up on the page. Okay. I don't really need to reference material. I do have to reference my own characters a lot because I have a lot of characters and I can't always remember what they look like. So on my tablet, I've got folders and folders and folders of my own comic books. So I can reference back and go, oh, that's what that guy looks like. I couldn't remember.
I get you. Yeah,
I get that. Yeah.
And the other thing I've heard this from other friends who know are artists and stuff is perhaps people who don't get your sense of humour and then ask you for a commission. Have you had any real weird commission requests, and have you turned any down?
Yes, I have turned.
Here we go.
I don't actually do commissions anymore because I got so many out of the box ones. I thought, you know what, I'm actually dreading having to work on these commissions. So I would always turn down anything with animal cruelty in, anything that was degrading to women or men, anything crazy, racist. You would get people saying, hello, if I paid you a lot of money, could you draw dismembered women? And I'm like, how do I politely say no thank you to that? Because
I'm sorry about sending you that. I know.
Here's a lot of money.
I don't want my name attached to that and going out on the internet. So I said no thank you to all that kind of stuff. But I'm always polite. I think the key is to be really polite because you never know when that person that you're talking to could be a serial killer. So
yes, or an industry bigwig.
Yes, exactly.
You can't really go wrong with being polite. It's just,
exactly right. Do you do like have you done many conventions where you've actually drawn at the time, there and then, in front of people?
Yes. So there was 3 conventions at Whitby. The people who ran them have actually moved to York now. And they were the first comic conventions I ever did, only a couple of years ago, actually. And I was drawing on the day. People were coming up saying, I'll pay you this much, and could you draw me as the Joker? And something like that. And I would be drawing on the day, and wow, that was stressful. I got them all done. I got the work done, but that was so stressful and hard. So
you two have said that before, haven't you, when we've done comments?
It's really rough. It's really rough. I don't like it.
No.
I prefer just having a table and just talking and selling and stuff. But when you got to sit down and with your pen and your pencils, and then
do you remember that one where you had to draw on a jam piece, Vince? And there was all these like well-known guest professionals and stuff, and they said, "Oh, Vince, can you draw on this?" And you're like, I like you said with blank covers, I cannot fuck this up. Yeah. It's like
But with a blank cover, you can always get another blank cover. On that jam piece, it's like, you fuck it up, it's fucked up.
Yeah, but that's good. That's exciting, isn't it? That's the challenge. I mean, I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
You slap that on there, and you know that you can't screw it up. And you know, it's like a sniper. You're taking your shot. You've got to hit your mark.
Can't
I don't mind doing that. But when you've got, I once had 3 lasses who wanted me to draw them all in their cosplay, and I was like, I'm just sat at my stall trying to sell my comics, and I was working from their photo, and them stood there, and wow, that was pressure.
Yeah,
so
I can imagine, man.
And conventions cost a lot of money, don't they?
Yeah.
It costs so much to have a stall at. That's crazy.
Yeah, you can get some free ones. Like we've had Andrew, who does he offers free con tables.
Oh yeah, well, it's not far from you. It's Bridlington. So he gives free tables to small press people. He's just looking to build up the comics content in his conventions, and says if you come along, he's super. You dig him, man. He's a nice guy.
Yeah. What's the name of the con?
Bridlington. Yeah.
You'd do well at there, Boo. I reckon.
Yeah, you would.
And if you get a free table.
Plus, you get to hang about with us, and we just lark about, so it's quite fun.
You guys just want more of my comics for free. I'm onto you. You're just trying to scare me.
I don't know what you mean.
Should Should we play some influence bingo?
Here we go. Influence bingo's back. Tony's favourite game.
So
this could be interesting.
I'm going to see if I'm right about some of your influences. Okay. So the first one comes primarily from Flag Force. I'm going to say Marvel UK. Thoughts?
Yeah. When I was a kid, I read a lot of Marvel UK, Death's Head, stuff like that, and Transformers. Yeah.
Yeah, that little period of everything was a team book, wasn't it? Even death metal meets, this sort of thing. I just got a sense of that because you got sort of a Captain Britain-esque character, haven't you, on the go?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I do like Captain Britain. They've messed him around so many times in the comics, but I mean, he became like practically more powerful than Superman at one point, and that was awesome. But I kind of there was some aspects of UK Marvel comics I couldn't stand, and some of them I really liked, like Death's Head and what was it, Commando Colin or something that was in the back of Transformers.
Combat Colin.
Awesome.
Combat Colin by Lou Stringer.
That's it, Combat Colin. Yeah, he was great.
Oh, cool. Okay, next one, Fem Force.
I've never read that.
Okay.
I think I know the guy who works on it, who draws it. I have a problem with names, I must admit. I can't remember the names of anybody, and I often give people who I know, who are associates and friends, nicknames. And I see Femforce popping up in previews and in the comic shop I buy stuff from, and I've never read it. No, I'm tight. I don't like
It's
spending
still
money.
going, man. It's still going. Yeah, it's been going for years. Jim Balent's Tarot.
Oh, yeah, I have a very large tarot collection.
Yes.
I've followed him on social media for a long time, yeah. I had to stop buying that a few years ago because the prices of comics were going up and I didn't have as much money coming in back then. And I was like, I've got to stop. But I thought, I'll try and pick back issues up later. But yeah, I used to get that a lot.
Oh, cool.
Man, those prices haven't stopped fucking rising. I'll tell you that.
No, I know that. It's insane actually, because they're Marvel and DC and Dark Horse and all those companies, they're what I call fast food comics. They get mass printed, they're expected to go in discount boxes shortly after, and they don't have a very long shelf life, as opposed to artists who make and sell their own comics, where people actually treat them as artwork and treasures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those guys, I say, charge whatever you want for a comic. I'm quite happy with that. But Marvel and DC and all that, with their fast food comics, those prices should be well down. This is 2025. We've got futuristic technology now printing this crap. It should be well cheaper.
Yeah, no, there shouldn't be a $5 each.
Yeah, it's like the prices are going up, but the quality, storytelling quality is sometimes going down quite a lot.
Marvel and DC. Yeah.
Also, they're kind of, because the smaller press and the indie stuff, the quality is rising, and they're not, because they're kind of locked at this level. It kind of, by kind of, how do you put it? It basically makes them not look as good, even though they've not essentially changed too much. But this everyone else has got a lot better.
Yeah.
Well, I used to read Avengers a lot, and I bought a recent Spider-Man comic and some Avengers comics, and they were terrible. I got into Avengers just when Bendis was still doing it, just before he launched New Avengers. And you had Frank Cho working on Mighty Avengers and stuff, and the Avengers felt like something was happening. You know what I mean? It felt like a comic.
Yeah, it was an event, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then recently, it's just kind of felt like a licensed product.
Yeah.
It's not interesting.
Yeah. In name alone.
There's a bit of tracing going on.
Yeah, in name alone are these characters.
And my last one, so I've got 2 out of 3 so far. My last one is Alan Davis. It's a bit of a long shot, that one. No, fuck.
No. Yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah, no, I think this. I used to love Masamune Shirow. You know, he made Appleseed and Minion
Yeah.
He's epic. I am a huge Evangelion fan. I read the books. I watch every series. I watch all the films, all the remakes. Make me another remake. I'll watch that. I love Chris Bacalo. Or is it Bachelor?
Okay.
Bacalo
Yeah.
artwork.
Yeah.
He his artwork is always popping on the page. You know what I mean? There's always something going on.
Design-wise, he's doing a lot of things design-wise with layouts and things, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just a standard. And I can see that actually in your work, like the playfulness of panels and the whole page.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, I love that. I love altering the way I lay out the panels. It's great.
Did Chris Bocello? He was one of the things. His characters always had quite large feet. They had like quite chunky boots. Is that right?
Are you thinking Humberto Ramos?
Ramos. Yeah.
Although I think Bocello's. Yeah.
Were you a big guy for the image? This wasn't one of them. I'm just asking this question. Were you a big one for the Image Revolution, the early days of Image and all that sort of thing? Was that something you were into?
I jumped straight in on Spawn. I liked Wildcats. I liked. There was some of them I'm really not bothered about.
You're not a Savage Dragon fan, or?
No, I didn't like Savage Dragon. No.
Oh man, his recent stuff reminds me of your stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say the more recent Dragon is very much akin to some of the stuff you're putting out, Boo. It's
really
check it out. You might dig it.
He's gone pretty lively with the
absolute
the sex stuff.
There's loads of crazy characters, nudity, death. It's like. He does go a bit far for me on the sex scenes, I've got to say, sometimes with Savage Dragon.
Malcolm Dragon's girlfriend gets thrown across the room on a plume of spunk. You know, that sort of thing, quite commonly. That's quite a common thing. Plume of spunk. Put that as the title of the episode, Vince. Plume of spunk.
Plume of spunk.
I think you're all just perverts. I think that's what it is. You're all dirty perverts.
How dare you?
It busts me, and I'm ashamed to be talking to you.
You're going to upset our two listeners. So kind of like going back to kind of the comic creation stuff, how long would it take you to do a page from get up in the morning till it's done? Would you do a page a day, or how do you work?
I mean, often I can do at least a page a day, but it depends on the page and it depends on your life, doesn't it? I mean, some days I don't get a single thing drawn. I have ideas, but I don't actually get anything drawn because the postman comes, he delivers your comics from the printers. Suddenly you're bagging and boarding 50 comics and you don't get to work on anything. Sometimes in bed at night when I should be asleep and I'm like, I've just got to do a half a page. I've just got to finish this page off. So I aim for a page a day. If I'm lucky, I'll get 2 pages done a day. Same for sketch covers, really. Like if I'm packing and orders and stuff, then I ain't getting anything drawn.
No.
But on another day, maybe I'll get 2 pages drawn. Maybe if I'm lucky, 3 pages. If I draw some gigantic boobies, maybe I can like get those pages done.
I've got to say, I find the doing the packing boxes and doing the comics for Kickstarter fulfillment, it's one of those jobs. It's like when it comes up, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, it's a real pain. But when you actually do it, it's not too bad. But it's always doing your homework on a Sunday night before school kind of feeling to it.
Yeah, we try to make it like a social event where there's like 3 of us and we'll go out for a bite to eat in the middle of the day and stuff like that. That's the benefit of working with other people, I guess. But
you're doing it all yourself, Boo. When you get a...
Well, I do enslave my mother to do a lot of my
another title for the episode.
Yeah, so I'm like, here's a cup of tea, and my mum's like going, yes, I've just packed 20 of your orders, and I go, great.
When she puts a comic in upside down, do you just shout at her and say, "What have you done now?"
Do this.
Never. My mum is very careful of bagging and boarding all my comics and making sure none of them are bent, and sealing everything down properly, writing everybody's name and addresses right. And postage costs such a lot of money now. Oh my god,
it's gone mad, isn't it? Yeah. Have you got? I guess that you're an international crowd that buy your stuff, is it?
Yes, it is. It's mostly Americans actually.
Right.
I would like more British people, because the postage is cheaper. But it's mostly Americans. But I also send to Iceland, France, Germany, some of the other European countries.
There's a lot of pervs in Germany, aren't there? Have you seen their porn? Terrible.
No, I don't watch smut like that. That's just
I don't agree with it.
No. We're going to come back to it, but if people in the UK did want to kind of check out some of your books, Boo, you've got them on your website, so you can go to.
Yes, that's right. My website is www.unpleasantdreams.co.uk. and that has links to my Etsy store. I keep a lot of my comics on Etsy for people who have missed out on Kickstarters.
Okay.
And it has links to my Patreon, it has links to Kickstarter, and it has links to my social media, where I'm Rudetoons on Instagram, I'm Rudetoons Art on Twitter, I'm even Rudetoons on Marvel Rivals. So people can hit me up in places.
Do you still offer like sketch covers, or is that like a kind of a Kickstarter only?
No, I'll do sketch covers on Etsy. Yeah, I'll do sketch covers on Etsy. I also have sketch covers as a reward on Patreon. When I do sketch covers on Kickstarter, a lot of people say, "Can you draw this character that you've never heard of before?" And I go, "No, I only draw my own characters on the covers for Kickstarter, so that I can get everybody's work done." But on Etsy, if you've got a weird character I've never heard of, as long as I can Google them, I'll do them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you had any can you draw? I don't know. Here's a favourite of mine, Boo. Can you draw Jane McDonald on a sketch cover? Do you get like real people suggestions?
Yeah. God, real people are such a nightmare. I don't know about you guys, but trying to get an accurate likeness in your own art style, and then worrying will the customer see it as an accurate likeness is such a nightmare. It's like a stress on me. Never mind what the customer thinks. It's just a huge stress for me. So if I draw a celebrity that I like, I can be happy with it. But if I have to draw a celebrity somebody else likes, fuck that. Oh, well.
You're kind of you're moving into kind of caricature, which is like it's a different skill set, and it's a tough one.
Yeah,
like you got to kind of identify key features on the face and accentuate them or not. And that can be subjective as well, because some people might not see that character, that person the way you do. So
exactly.
Yes, it can be a rough game. It can be tough.
the slightest line out, and that entire face is altered in shape, and suddenly it doesn't look like the person. You're trying to get the eyes at just the right angle so that you've captured that face shape. It's like this whole mad science to try and work out on the page.
Again, if they're a little older and you don't put enough wrinkle lines, they look too young. You put too many, they look too old. It's kind of
nightmare.
Yeah.
So just don't do it then.
Yeah. I mean, the UK does have quite a good history of, for want of a better term, erotic or humorous sex comics. I mean, I was chatting to someone the other day about Hunt Emerson. I'm a fan of his. I know some of the guys on the Slack are as well. And I think he do a strip for like Fiesta or something like that. I think he did.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of it going on. Is there a network of guys who do, I'm not saying the same, but sort of a similar area to you, Boo, that you know of, who are UK based or anything like that?
I've no idea. I've got a few friends in the community still. Since social media started going a bit wonky and not as many people talk to each other anymore, I've got a few friends in America, and that's it really in the community. I don't mix with very many people, but I think British artists, we tend to have an attitude that makes us want to challenge authority, challenge the system, and so we like to put a lot more humor in there. So for adult material, putting some funny boobies in and stuff like that, or taking the piss out of politicians is natural for us. I don't think it's as natural for Americans because they take things a bit more
very different sense of humor, isn't it?
Yeah. Satire doesn't really hit the same in a lot of different countries.
Well, we've got that history of people like Scarf and people like that who've just like totally gone for it, and we get it. You know, the sort of newspaper illustration guys. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Generally, there's a bit more sort of self-depreciation that's a massive generalization that Americans don't do so much. Like the Brits are constantly taking the piss out of themselves.
Yeah. But you're right, we're all very anti-authoritarian, aren't we, in a lot of our comics? You know, and that comes from even pre-2000 AD and things like that. Yeah, we're almost like the comics people are kind of the rebels. Yeah, almost over here a little bit more, I think. Yeah,
I think that's why there was when we had the British creators like Grant Morrison,
British Invasion,
British Invasion, all kind of like like fresh voices and like something very different to what the industry was used to.
Yeah, which is interesting when you say that you mostly sell to America though. So maybe you're filling a hole in the market that, in the nicest possible way,
not being fulfilled.
They don't have over there.
Well, I do think so. When I created Majesty, quite a few years back now because I'm 9 issues. Yeah, I'm 9 issues in. Um, Originally, I sent that comic to quite a few different publishers in America. I sent it to some really small indie publishers, and I sent it to Image. I sent it to all sorts. I didn't expect Image to take it, but you send it around, and just like people applying for jobs and never hearing back, I didn't hear anything back. So I was putting it up on the internet. I was getting responses, and I remember some lass, I don't know who she was, turned around and said, "Oh God, that's all we need, another big booby superhero." Oh yeah, great, that's a lot of use.
Yeah, they don't get it.
And I thought, no, I thought, well, why? There's a lot of naff comics out there published by giant companies. Why can't I make money with my comic? So I took it to Kickstarter, and the first 3 issues made over 20K, and I was like, that's amazing, that's brilliant, because the people on Kickstarter were ready, they're engaged, they're clued in to buy comics.
Yeah.
And I was like, where are these customers coming from? They're mostly coming from America, because the big companies, they're making comics, but they're not making what really engages with the customers like they used to.
And the readers, I mean, you
learnings?
can't argue with sales.
Yeah. What's the learning? I mean, obviously you jumped on the Kickstarter and, like, you know, just the groundswell of success since then. So you must have, you know, learned quite a few things in the process, especially with the content of your comics as well. What are some of the biggest learnings you've had for your particular type of comics on Kickstarter and crowdfunding?
Well, I mean, I was very lucky that I'd worked in pro comics first, so I'd already taught myself how to get a job done, how to get a full comic done, how to get it done to deadline and stuff like that. And then when you move on to Kickstarter, you've really got to have at least a few pages, half a comic, preferably a whole comic done, so that you can put it succinctly on your page on Kickstarter. Talk confidently, make sure that people know what they're getting, and then be open to respond to people, because sometimes the people reading your Kickstarter have great ideas about where you can get shipping cheaper or what you can use to pack your comics safer.
Well, different tiers, I find, is something that gets suggested a lot. You know, are you considering doing a hardback tier and stuff like that? If you get enough questions about that, sometimes it's worth considering.
Yeah,
I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I do my normal comic for £12 a comic. I'll do Virgin editions for £25 upwards. I often do a hardback edition, but that's got 1 to 3 comics in it usually, so it's around 100 pages to 200 pages, and I charge £50 for a hardback.
Okay.
And I know that if I went to a lot of the very posh conventions down south, some people would go, those prices are awesome. And some people would go, I can't afford those prices. But on Kickstarter, collectors are already bought in. So you've got to have lots of tiers. I do a digital comic for £5 to £7, depending on the comic. And I'll do special limited editions of the covers where I only make 50 or 100 of those covers. Sometimes I'll do T-shirts.
Do you think
You've
that's a big?
Lots of options.
Yeah, no, you're very wise, man. I think that's the best thing. But do you? And I see this with a lot of, for example, Dynamite covers. Do you think this is a speciality area that does really well? When I say special, I mean variant covers. Is if it's got a sort of sexy, erotic, funny, erotic kind of melody to it, it seems to do better in the variant cover scene for that. I think is that right? Do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, I've seen some comics and some hardback books that people have done that have had very boring covers, and they sell really well. But those are often already very famous people. You know what I mean? It's like they've already got a lot of street cred out there. If you're coming in and you've got your collectors, but you're hoping to get new collectors, there's nothing wrong with doing booby covers. There's nothing wrong with doing something eye-catching that makes the viewer want to come in and read your pages, because you're trying to hook them in, and then they read your pages and they have a laugh and go, this looks awesome. Everybody's fighting on the moon. You've got Nazi moons. I can't wait to read this.
Nazi cell, man.
You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with doing your variant covers and getting your boobies in there, because ultimately you have to make the money so that you can get those comics printed, so that you can afford to pay yourself for drawing them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also knowing your audience as well, isn't it? You know, you know the people that have come to your page and that are going to place your comic. They want a certain type of experience. You know that they've experienced. They know your comics, so it's like, okay, here's something extra you can have if you like what I do. Then you know, and I think
exactly.
Yeah. It sort of strikes me, and it's only just occurred to me. So please please tell me I'm an idiot. But do you think we're facing a rise in, it's almost like the second permissive society? It's sort of sex sells. We've always known that, but it's much more open now. For example, we've got all these OnlyFans girls who are becoming celebrities. People are more willing to pay for stuff online and be out there paying for stuff online. Be out and proud buying stuff that's sexy and stuff like that. Do you think we've reached that stage now where it's okay now? Does that make sense? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Because I feel like we've gone through almost like a puritanical phase for quite a few years of like, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, and I don't want to sound like a fucking Daily Mail reader, but do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What do you think,
I'll be totally honest. Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm woke as fuck. Right, I am super woke. All my comics are woke. I've got an Aboriginal superhero. I've got comics I've made with busty black super babe heroes. I like representation, but at the moment we're in an age where nudity is okay. Working on OnlyFans is okay because you're working to pay your bills. It's not like you're taking advantage of people. The people who are paying the lasses and lads on OnlyFans know what they're buying into. They know what they're paying for. But because of that, we're getting a slight swing with Trump and all the MAGA people where they want their countries to go back to what they think they were, not what they actually were, what they imagine they were. And so those are swinging against the nudity and against the wokeness. And we're swinging the other way. We're embracing the wokeness. We're embracing the nudity. We're embracing the counterculture is no longer counterculture. It's just society. It's just everybody.
But we're also seeing a little bit of a tightening of, you're right when you say, because America essentially controls our social media. We're seeing like a tightening of hate law. I'm not trying to promote hate law, but there's certain censorious things are happening.
Yes.
Do you see that affecting you at all? Or?
Oh, I would not be surprised if Trump and Elon Musk and stuff just outright say we're banning comics, because they're talking some crazy things that people didn't think they'd say. At one point, Trump was saying he was going to ban video games, and he's trying to affect things which are going to make the price of the new Nintendo Switch jump high. So I think, there's a lot of things that are going to affect us. I've seen social media censoring my work, and that has affected me being able to reach potential new customers. Something I'll just say, something I do on social media is instead of posting straight up your boobies on your work, is take a photo of the drawing you're doing, and then social media doesn't punish you as much because
so
you're just
hand
taking
there drawing it or something. It tends not to.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
And that allows me to. So I take a photo of the front cover rather than just posting up the front cover, and that somehow slides through the gap. But I fully expect social media to just crush down and clamp down on us.
Yeah,
so it's up
they
to
adapt,
us
don't they?
invent new
They're
ways
like
to get it out.
Like the Borg.
Yeah. So with that in mind, though, is the importance of the communities within your Kickstarter campaigns and your Patreons and everything else, are they more valuable than do you make sure you focus on giving them attention and communication and everything?
Yes, completely. There's a big difference between your followers on social media. You can have 1 million likes and 1 million followers, and that doesn't convert into buyers.
Yeah.
So you use social media to basically prove you're human, to prove you're a real person who is into video games, who's into comics, who's just bought a Totoro plushie. And people go, oh, cool, that guy's real. I trust buying comics off him. And then the real collectors who want to buy your work, they know they can give you money for comics. And if you're a bit late delivering the comics, it's okay because they can see you're a real person and you're still alive. You're still giving them their rewards on Patreon. You're giving them what they want on Kickstarter, but you're using social media to prove that you're a real human and not a bot.
Okay.
How much
Again,
pressure? How much pressure is it that? Like, because you're the one-man band, like making your comics, doing everything else,
in service of your readers in a way as well.
Yeah.
So how important is that to and how stressful can it be to focus? Because you've got to focus on different sort of audiences. Because like you say, you've got a Kickstarter, you've got the Etsy, you've got everything else. Because that's quite a lot of pressure for any single creator, which sometimes we don't talk about too much. That if you're doing it all full time from home and you're trying to deliver all this stuff, there's a lot of pressure. How do you focus on that? What do you use to sort of cope with those sort of pressures?
A lot of people feel pressure about different things. There's a lot of crazy stuff I've had in my life that doesn't cause me any pressure. When I was a kid, hunters stuck guns in my face, and I never felt any stress or pressure about it. When I worked in a comic shop in Middlesbrough, when I was back in art college, a lad dropped a gun on my foot, and I just told him to pick it up and take it outside because I didn't feel any pressure. I didn't feel any stress. But when you're doing stuff for other people, for customers who have paid you money, and you've got a self-imposed deadline, that's stressful. That's pressure.
Yeah, I wish more people thought that way. Yeah.
All you can do is work through it. Everything you get drawn is a step towards getting that accomplished. If you get depressed or something, I mean, a lot of us suffer depression and stuff, but you have to tell yourself, depression doesn't actually help me. It doesn't get those comics drawn. It doesn't get those comics in people's hands. It's not helpful. Being down isn't helpful. I've got to do stuff that helps me achieve the goals that I need to get done.
I think doing it helps you feel less down as well. Getting that out the way, getting it done. I think that's a lot of people just sort of allow it to affect them and allow it to fester. But if you just get on with it and get it done, sometimes that does help your state of mind, I think, as well.
Yeah, actually, something you guys were talking about on a previous show, you were talking about what to do with your comic collections when you die. And I think I've got a huge comic collection. Make no doubts about that. I've got boxes and boxes that I can't even get inside from different comics. I've got Thunderbolts, Batman, Hellboy, all sorts, Spider-Man. And I think a solution to that is me and my family are Pigoneers. We donate money to pay for rescue pigs that an animal charity rescued, and they have to feed them every day. So we pay a subscription to that. So I think if you can find animal charities that run charity shops, and you take your comic collections before you die, or if you leave a note for your family and just give those comic collections to them, because you're dead, you're rotting in the ground, you've become worm food, but those comic collections can help animals to stay alive. Helpless little animals that don't know anything about comics, they can get fed with them, and you're passing those comics on so that they can have a positive outcome for somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Have you got some valuable ones to get them sold off to an auctioneer?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could pick out your valuable ones and make sure that you get more money to donate to something. But at the same time, you never know when a comic creator is going to do a Neo Gaiman and come out as
massively.
Something
talk about that. I'm still angry that affected because I can't stand Sandman, but that affected the price of issue 1, which I'd bagged. Which it would have got. Yeah. Couple of questions for you, Boo. First one: do you play the harp?
No.
Was that behind you then? I thought that was a harp.
Oh, yes. That's a harp. That's a medieval instrument. No, that's my mum's.
Okay. Cool.
I actually have in a different room all the comic covers that I've drawn for other companies, pinned in bags and boards against the door so that I can see them every day.
Nice.
But sitting in the upstairs passage is quite close to the broadband hub. So
I see. And the next one I was going to ask is sort of a bit of a wild question. I know we're getting towards the end, but if you could get an already established character or an IP or anything like that and do it in your trademarked way, what would you choose? Who would you choose?
I mean, there's so many. There's a lot of there's a lot of I've forgotten the words now. Characters that are already in public domain. Stuff like Catman and things. And I've done my own version of Catman. And I keep going to put him in more of my comics, but I never get round to it because I keep inventing my own characters. But I'd choose things. If a comic company turned around to me and said, "Here, free reins, make a comic," I'd choose stuff like Daredevil, I'd choose Spider-Man, I'd choose Batman, things like that. The obvious choices, and I would make them wacky. They would be having wacky, fun 60s adventures, but with more boobies and stuff. I can't stand all these comics that are super depressing. I'm so dark. Everything's dark.
It's interesting that you chosen all male characters. That's interesting to me. So I thought you'd go for like Catwoman or maybe Poison Ivy or something like that, but no.
I think a lot of the big name female characters, they get licensed out. I mean, look at what they did to Harlequin. She was a really solid, good character when she was invented in the cartoon and came to the comics. And as she's moved into films and stuff and the cartoons, she's become less like herself. I really enjoyed when they made Elektra into Daredevil because it gave a totally fresh spin on Elektra rather than her just being the undead assassin of the Hand. So I do a lot of empowered female characters that kick a lot of butt. But I think if I went to do a mainstream comic character, I'd pick one that's really obvious, and then I'd bring a lot of the side characters in. I'd sneak Rogue from the X-Men into a Daredevil comic, and people would go, "How would that work?" And somehow I'd make it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd like expose her breasts and then job done.
Here we go.
Well, it's the temptation. Don't touch, isn't it? Don't touch, no matter how much they
Oh dear. I mean, clearly you've got an audience. You're doing well for yourself, and you've got a style of comic. I mean, I think it's brilliant that the small press and indie scene has so many different sort of flavors and genres and everything. And but your comics definitely stand out. Beyond the obvious reasons, but with the humor and stuff as well. Do you actually have you come across any problems with, because of the content, people having a problem with it, or sort of saying, oh,
totally. Actually, literally just the other day, I was commenting on social media on an actress I don't like. Because she said that she turned down the role of Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy, the films, right? I won't say who this actress is because I don't want to cause more fighting. But I said, she's a terrible actress. She could never have played that character. And a whole load of her fans came out of nowhere on social media and found me and started launching at me. And look, I've got nothing against feminists, but this crazy feminist came straight at me saying, "I'm not surprised. Look at how you objectify women. Oh, I bet you're an incel too." And I said, "Go back to your cave, you troll. I'm not getting involved with you."
But that's the thing. People don't understand what you're doing because your comics are fucking hilarious. This person has probably just looked at a couple of your covers and thought, "Oh yeah, sexist." But that's the opposite of what you are to me. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. I always say in everything that I draw powerful, butt-kicking super babes. They're strong. They punch people into space. They turn them inside out. They pull their intestines out through their butts. And I feel that a lot of comic books, I mean, for Invincible, for example, Atom Eve, she's always making pink stuff, and then she gets beaten up by the supervillains so that Invincible can save the day. Whereas I draw a lot of superheroines who save the day themselves. But to an outsider who's already made their mind up, they just see big giant nipples bobbing about in my photos and go, "That's it. He hates women." And I'm like, no, I love women. I love.
It's easier to write
women.
Off that way. You know what I mean? And win the argument on social media, as it were.
Exactly.
There's no nuance online, is there? Sadly.
Yeah. I mean, it's like never judge a book by its cover, but with comics, they're constantly getting judged by whatever that thumbnail is.
Look what happened to Howard Chaykin. That was the same. Yeah.
So but if people want to find out, I mean, all of these books we've talked about, seriously, listeners, see it for yourself. What have you got coming up, and where can people find you and your work again?
Cool. So I'm going to be doing some more Kickstarters this year. I'm going to be doing some more Flag Force, more Majesty. I would like to do, a lot of collectors have asked me to do some sword and sorcery fantasy.
Oh,
I'm
that'd
going
be great. Yeah.
start into doing some of that. It's going to be funny, action, violent, boobies. But you can get me on social media. You can go to my website, unpleasantdreams.co.uk. You can get some comics that you might have missed from my past Kickstarters on Etsy. Some people just DM me and say, hello, I'd like to buy a comic. And I go, okay, cool, PayPal me this much and I'll pop it in the mail to you. Right now, I'm actually drawing Big Guns versus Mighty Zombies, issue 1, which I've got to get printed as a comic and as a hardback. Big Guns is my American super team. And I always said I would never do an American super team because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
But friends said, you got to do an American super team and make it funny. So I did, and I'm 3 issues in now. I'm just drawing issue 3. In issue 1, alien vampire bananas turned up to destroy the Earth, and they bit one of the
not that again.
Yeah. In issue 3, all of America gets turned vampire. And I had to sit there and think, how can I save America from mass vampirism? So I cooked up a crazy plan of how to do it. And then I'm going to do that in the comic, and hopefully the fans will go, that's amazing. I've never read something so inventive. You're amazing, Boo Rudetoons. I want to buy more of your comics.
So where did the name Big Guns come from? I can't imagine why.
Well, Americans love guns.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
You cannot say
bigger the better.
Don't have guns.
Yeah.
And everybody always says, here come the big guns. So I thought that just sounds like the perfect name for an American super team. It's like Trump is always the president of America in my comics, but he's an alien. He's actually an Oculon. And that was revealed in Flag Force issue 1. He pulls his face off, his rubber face, and he's an evil alien Oculon inside that just has a big eye and as a head. So I have him doing the wackiest stuff. And I didn't get rid of him when Trump lost the presidency last time and Biden took over, because I said to everybody, Trump's going to get back in. He's going to be back again.
Right.
I'm keeping him as president, and you'll say. And they
He'll
said,
probably
no,
be quite pleased you did that.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's your fault. That's bad.
Everything's my fault. Everything's my fault. Blame it all on me.
Well, this has been amazing, and
thanks, man.
we can't wait to see more of the comics.
Honestly, we didn't know what to expect. You're so
exactly.
enigmatic, Boo. We didn't quite know what to expect, but it's been a joy, mate. Yeah, it's been lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great to hear you.
Boobies, welcome back.
Back in the room.
There you go. I thought I'd
Quite enlightening, that wasn't it?
Yeah, good. And thanks to
We tackle the tough subjects.
Well, we talk about comics. There's so many different aspects of comics, different types of comics, and it's
What the readers can't see is us all laughing during that one. I could not stop laughing during that interview.
Cackling.
Yeah.
It was just making me laugh all the time.
Smiling.
Yeah.
At one point, I accused him of bullying his mum whilst bagging up comics. He took that quite well.
Yeah.
As long as you get bagged, man.
We don't want that sort of reputation of bullying mums.
No, we have to make it clear. Let's get to the bottom of that.
Yeah.
But quite the opposite, actually, with mums, isn't it? Quite loving.
Yeah, I'm very fond of mums. I'm fond of grandmums.
Mr. T said the wise words, treat your mother right, and I've fucking taken that to heart. I've never fucking not treated my mum right.
I've treated a lot of mums right.
I'll tell you what, I'm not having anything to do with this particular topic of conversation.
Okay.
All I can say is 2 words. Housewife's choice. No.
Readers' wives. Readers' wives.
Or husbands.
Yes.
Anyway,
no.
I said in beekeeper magazines, do you think they do readers' hives? So fuck off.
Do beekeepers have magazines?
How do they read them with those big gloves?
There's trade magazines for everything.
And those fucking masks.
How'd you get your glasses underneath those big masks?
Yeah. You know, do you have to put the comic in the visor in order to read it?
You got all that gas everywhere, smoking that.
Is there a beekeeper genre of comic? I mean, we know there's a movie.
I bet you there's a fucking manga.
Got to be.
Oh, of course.
It's quite trendy for a while, wasn't it? Beekeeping.
Oh, when in trendy, it's still, you know.
Would you still trendy now? Is it?
Tell me, gentlemen,
manga beekeeping.
If you could, would you produce your own honey? Yes, that might have been the most dangerous question I've ever asked on this podcast. Dan looks deep in thought.
I'm just looking. There is
Dan is a living male honey trap, though. Isn't it? That's the thing about it.
There is some manga that does have beekeeping in it.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What's it called?
Don't ask me to pronounce that fucking name. I don't know. Kimono no Soja.
Oh,
wow.
Nice. That was quite good.
Yeah, that was quite good.
You're a natural. Do you speak Japanese? That's amazing.
So you can get comics pretty much about anything.
That's a good point.
And this show can, as you know, can be about anything. And it can be about anything. Sometimes
it's about comics.
sometimes
what is happening?
Well, I don't know what's happening today. When do the clocks go forward?
It's next weekend, isn't it?
Next weekend.
Is it next weekend? Oh, fucking hell. I don't know where I am. Yes, I do. I'm on the Awesome Comics podcast. It's time for the shout-outs. We've got any shout-outs, gents?
I got a few. So this is your last chance this week, or it ends as of a couple of days' time if you're listening to this on the day of release. The Ragtime Soldier Kickstarter from Pat Mills and Gary Welsh. It's only got a few days to go. It could do with a little help. Go and have a look at that one. Go have a look at The Wondrous World of Bald Yeti by our buddy and Nottingham Comic Con organiser Kev Brett. Not only can you play fun card games, but you can also go to the baldyeti.com website and there's a free comic all about it for you there.
Oh,
it's sort
brilliant.
of a kids comic.
I saw this the other week. I started following along. So
yeah, me too. Yeah, I was speaking to Kev the other day. You can go on Instagram at Bald Yeti Designs, and you can also find him on Facebook for that one. From a sort of personal point of view, there's only a few days left on the Tribute Press Spring Catalogue Kickstarter. Thanks to everyone so far who's backed that. 3 comics, 3 underground comics, and 1 book, believe it or not. Speaking of Falpy, me and Falpy were on the inaugural episode of In Full Disclosure, which is a new podcast run by our buddy Jonny Cannon. It's on Spotify and on Substack. It works like a sort of round table discussion where each person asks the next person a comics question. You can find Johnny's Substack at Cannon, Cannon, Cannon Hill Comics. You'll find that there. All 11 issues of Steve McCluskey's Rain series are now on Global Comics, or you can find 79p issues on Amazon as well. It's a fusion of crime, action, tragedy, and love, all in a sort of gorgeous black and white series. Well worth your attention. We've read the first couple of issues. I'm going to dive back in and read the rest soon. You can find all 11 issues of that. He's really pumped them out, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done really well.
He's done really quickly on that. Well. Yeah. Colin Maxwell is putting on a 200th anniversary edition of the Glasgow Looking Glass, a comic which is credited with having the first ever word balloon. It's now available to log your interest on Kickstarter. So go on Kickstarter and look for the Glasgow Looking Glass, and you can log for this. It's a really interesting project from a sort of history point of view. They're mine.
Nice.
I was going to say, regard to Jonny Cannon, he put out a great post about like how he goes about designing his characters' suits and their look from the United. Do go check that one. It's really, really, really good one.
Nice.
Yeah, very good. It was, very well written, that one.
What shout-outs you got down?
I've got with the Dry Cleaner from TBH Comics, an electrifying tale of vengeance, organized crime, and ninjas. That is going to be releasing soon, so you can click and notify me on launch. That's by our good friend, talent creator, Kieran Squires. Do go check that out. He's just finished work on a book about cryptids for the Green Archer guys. And that's going to be, you might see some hints dropping on the socials about that, but that's a really good book. Go check that out. Apart from that, we've also got the old classic. We've got Lawless Comic Con, 24th and the 25th of May 2025, Doubletree by Hilton Hotel, Bristol, B51 6NJ. We've got the High Vis Comic Con, Saturday the 21st of June 2025 at Kings Heath, Birmingham, UK. Go check that out.
Nice. Right then, without further ado, let's talk about some more comics. And we've got a few to recommend this week. What would you like to start us off with, Tony?
Guys, I got three. I'm going to rattle through them. First one, Cosmic Slop, issue 3. Got this through this week from our buddy Ill Strips, Jordan Barry Brown. You can get your copy through illstrips.com. When I sent you the cover for it, and one of my favourite covers for ages, really pops out. Features Jordan's trademark characters called, I think they're called Vinon monks. They look like a cross between. Is it Orca from? I'm not really a He-Man guy. Is Orca the little floating wizard?
Orko, yeah.
Orko, yeah. They look like Orko from He-Man. A little bit of the Jawa about them, but they're dressed like they're members of Public Enemy. Is how they're dressed.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah,
yeah. So and they sort of float about, and they're walking through this sort of alien jungle on the cover. But the logo has a real nice 3D effect where the logo, the content of each letter looks like a sort of cosmic universe. So it separates itself in setting from the jungle they're in, which is a really nice sort of way of showing the sort of vibe you're going to get. Reading this, you can see why Jordan draws Metal Hurlant. He's got a really interesting individual, idiosyncratic sort of quirky style. This is 56 pages, full color interiors. It's split into 3 sections, 2 stories, and then a raft of kind of quirky back matter. The first one, probably my favourite one, is Picking Season, which is almost wordless. And it happens on the planet called Vine. And we follow the monks as they travel through this forest, picking fruits, a lot of the time oblivious to the dangerous creatures that surround them. And I think I sent you some of they go to a temple at one point. I said, fucking hell, what great pages. Also, the good thing about it is all very nearly wordless. I love a wordless comic sometimes, man.
Yeah,
It's
man,
a
if you can...
palate cleanser. Really good.
If it can do all the heavy lifting without having to have any words in it, it's...
A lot. It doesn't apply to every comic, but a lot of comics you can prove the storytelling by taking all the words away and still understanding the story sometimes, can't you?
Yeah.
You know, that's the art of storytelling, I guess, for some things. Perfectly coloured. The jungle and the temples and the alien creatures are really colourfully, flat coloured, drawn, but they also are so weird they have a threat feature about them. I think sometimes when we see this stuff it's so weird it feels unusual, and that adds to the sort of threat of it. And each monk has got a little twist on their character. So one of them will have a baseball cap on backwards, one of them will have a big clock, one of them has sunglasses, one of them's got those classic glasses with a nose and moustache attached kind of thing going on, so that everyone's a little twist on them. And you get to the point where they start to get picked off by the creatures in the jungle. I won't ruin it all, but really nice. And then you get a sort of Marvel Masterworks pin-up, showing some of the creatures that they've come across, and he names them all. Like we live for a sort of top trumps mentality a lot of times in comics, don't we? We're completists. We'll know what that is. Name of that spaceship, all this, name of that superhero, and it plays a bit into that. The second story is called All City Kaiju, and it's one of the monks again called Humpty. And he's graffiti bombing a city, and the city has a massive kaiju living in it. And this is not full colour, this is just tinted pages. So very different from the start thing. The city has been destroyed. It's there's a sort of post-apocalyptic that you sense this creature living in the city has made everyone move out. So this floating monk is going around tagging all the buildings and stuff while he can. And there's a little bit of the psychedelic where you sense he kind of loses his mind about something at one point, and it's almost like looking back on yourself, seeing yourself as something different. Very interesting doing. Then the back there's loads of back matter in this. There's there's 7 big kaiju. He names them all, and each gets a page with all nice. Tusk, ray beams, all this sort of thing, armor attached to it, all sort of thing. And I'm guessing they're going to come back in future stories and take a play because they're so well imagined. I'm going to say my favourite small press comic this year so far. I think this holds it for me. Absolute psychedelic joy. So go to Illstrips. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, go to ILLSTRIPS illstrips.com and you can get your own copy. I think I'm speaking out of school. I think Jordan lives in France, so they have to come from France, but don't worry about it. It's not expensive. Yeah, that's my first one.
Nice. Dan, do you have a couple this week?
I've got 2. Yeah,
do you want to start with one, and then I'll sit quite comfortably in the middle?
I've got a follow-up comic. I recommended the original miniseries a couple of years ago. I tried looking for the actual what episode it was, but it was the title called The Fist by Jordan Kroeger.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So this is the sequel. It's the Fist versus Inner Peace. The Fist, a punching machine trained only to kill, has given up violence. How will he confront his ultimate enemy, which is his other hand, which is another fist?
That's mental.
Yeah, the previous issue of the Fist, he sort of covered like his battle to overcome the forces of evil. His wife was his spaceship, but now in this comic, he's turned to pacifism, and he's like, how is he gonna get back in the game, as it were, and then fight the ultimate enemy? It starts with him in sort of like a Nirvana-like place where he's singing with his band, and it acts as kind of like a flashback to what happened in the previous comic series when he's singing a song with his group about how they got on. Because he's lost his right arm, there's now kind of a slime-like entity with a life of its own which talks and raps part for way through the song. And he decides he gets a letter through the mail which is you're invited to a death fight about from his alter ego, and he basically sets off with him and his wife, who's the spaceship, to go about having this massive conflict.
Oh God, I do remember this now. Yeah.
And when he turns up, they say, right, instead of having a fight, we're gonna have an arm wrestle contest. And it does an interesting thing where the bad guy snaps his finger, and the comic goes from being color into being black and white, a bit like Kill Bill. And from that point on, the comics in black and white, where they have an arm wrestling contest for fucking pages and pages. And it's not just like the arms going back and forth. It's a bit of that old-fashioned comic thing of where they synchronize kind of nervous systems, and they're hacking each other's brains and trying to force the other one to go down, the other one trying to force him to go down. It's a really fun, fucking crazy comic that just goes all over the place. And it's interesting, it starts off in this very kind of psychotropic whole spectrum of colors into a kind of more grainy black and white version with screen tone like finishes towards the end. If you kind of like a big fan of kind of manga style comics, but like that kind of Western crazy shit that just anything can happen, it's a really fun read. I'm not quite sure where you can get it from online. I don't think he's got a website listed in the book, which no, he hasn't. But if you just looked up The Fist and Jordan Kroeger, it should pop up. You might be able to get hold of a copy of it. But yeah, real fun read.
It reminds me of sort of kayfabe kind of comic, that one. You know, the sort of thing that Jim Rugg and that little firm would have been into.
Yeah, oh, they would have loved it. Yeah, it's got some really lovely character designs in the back, and just generally, it's the guys, the creators really come on his art style. It's through the first, I think it was 3 or 5 issues of the original Fist, you could see the progression of how as an artist he was growing, and when it's come to this, it's kind of once again jumped up, because it's been a couple of years since he's put that out. So I was really pleased when this came through. I backed it on the Kickstarter a little while ago, and I was reading, you know, when you go on the Kickstarter and think, well, what are these books I've backed and not actually got? And you're like, oh yeah, there it is, there's that one, I'll download that, that.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
and that was one of the ones I got this week.
Yeah, sometimes when we play through a lot of Kickstarter, sometimes we forget.
And can't keep track of everything.
Yeah, and you think, oh, I never got that in the end. It has actually been fulfilled. It just sometimes got swept under the rug.
Usually they're sitting in the messages like, oh, here's your download.
So before you kick off at any creator, just check your Kickstarter inboxes. And stuff like that, and speaking of Kickstarter,
before we go on, it makes me weird. Like, why can't they do like a fulfillment center for you as a Kickstarter user? And if you kind of like get a reward from your Kickstarter, that goes in your reward box or something as a user. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like someone said, right, here's your reward for.
It's almost like it's got its own Dropbox sort of thing.
And then,
I think.
Then when you went to your message page, it's like, right, here's your reward, here's that reward, here's this reward. But okay.
Yeah, otherwise you got to pick your way through who.
The problem of it is digital, physical, and all the tracking of it.
It's not only it's not only comics as well.
Yeah.
But
speaking of Kickstarters, my book,
mine's got a Kickstarter as well.
Yeah, my book that I'm going to recommend is a Kickstarter. Currently, it's only got I think it's only 4 days left when I speak about this. And this came about purely on social media. It's just an ad popped up as you do if you follow comic creators or just comics in general. Sometimes on Instagram you'll get the crowdfunding ones pop up. Most of the time, I do just sort of browse past them, but this one sort of caught my eye with its artwork. This is by I believe it might be a French creator. Forgive me if I'm wrong. This is Michael Sanlaville, and this is Banana Sioule. Now, I've probably said that wrong as well. This is the future of Gladiator Games, an explosive shonen manga style series.
Nice.
Now, some people may know the creator, who is the co-creator of Last Man, which is a book that...
Oh, yeah, I know EOC love that book. Yeah.
And I know, certainly on the Kickstarter page, Robert Kirkman, there's a quote by a testimony from Robert Kirkman.
I really must read that. I think it might be on GC as well.
Yeah. If it is, I'll probably head over there.
Yeah.
This one, the Kickstarter itself is for three books, and I think they're 200 pages each. So it's, much like those mangas, it's already, it's all there, black and white and grayscale. Beautiful artwork. But what is it? Well, the first rule of Sioule: there are no rules. Of all international sports, Sioule is the most violent, the most dangerous, and the most watched event in all media history. This brutal cocktail of rugby and dodgeball attracts millions of viewers to each match, and social networks go wild for the players who become international stars. But Helena is far from familiar with all this madness. From the idyllic silence of her countryside home, she is quite content to help her father on the family farm, camping by the sea with her friends and maintaining a simple, peaceful life of chopping wood, taking care of injured cows, as you do, and swimming in the ocean with Manil and the others. This is the daily life she grew up with, but her father dreams of something more for her, and there is no way she'll spend a life shoveling manure. And she falls into this world. There's a lot more on the Kickstarter. They show you like proper sort of panels of what's going on and stuff. And I was just taken by this. The artwork is beautiful artwork, all grayscale and black and white. There is like they say download like a free issue sort of thing just to check it out. I always like especially if they're going to do a book like 3 books or something like that, to give that sort of teaser so you know what you're getting. I'd already kind of in some way made my mind up that I was going to pledge for something because I thought, oh, this looks like fun, just good fun comics. But I downloaded it and it was like a 24, and this was interesting, it was like a 24-page PDF that was taken from volume 2 of the series.
Okay.
And it does a little thing that sort of catches you up, and that what the preview is pretty much just action. It's like what's happening during one of the games. And as you know, with these sort of shonen manga, these manga titles, it's just action. It's just kinetic. Very few words, but you can clearly see what's going on. As with many of these sort of sports titles, it's about the sport. Whereas this sport has a sort of like I say, they say there's dodgeball meeting rugby. There's a little bit of rollerball going on in there as well. People with I don't know if they got powers, but there's certainly something going on with the main character. She's got more than it seems at first. Certainly from this sort of preview. But it's the sort of dodgeball that you have 2 teams, but you also have vehicles. And there's bikes, and people are being taken out by cars.
It's a bit like rollerball. Almost.
Yeah, and it was, there's influences of that. But I was just, it was interesting. It was 24 pages taken from a volume 2 of a world and a story I didn't know anything about. What I've just read to you just then, I only read that just quickly before reading. When I pledged for it But when I finished those 24 pages, I was like, yeah, I'm pledging to this. Because I kind of... And it speaks to creating a story that, A, you know where you are, even though you don't know the details, but I know exactly what kind of story I'm going to get here. And then B, I want to know more. And that was one of those, okay, how do we get to this? How are these characters linked, and what is this going on? And there's like a commentator that's completely over the top. He's got weird little Dr. Octopus like glasses. You know, Dr. Octopus's glasses are kind of they're weird shaped,
almost goggles, aren't they?
Yeah. But he's commentating the whole thing, and he's up in a big, like, sort of luxury box, being given champagne and stuff, while these people are just being like taken out. I mean, it's not brutal and gory, but it is that hyperkinetic, energetic people getting hit by cars, flying up in the air when they do so. There's big explosions, and it just looks it's real good fun. And the Kickstarter itself is for a lot of I think they're trying to produce. This must have already come out, I think, at some point.
Okay.
Because it feels like they've got this ready to go. Delivery's July this year, so the books are all ready to go, and that's it. And I pledged for 3 digital PDFs, and that's 600 pages of story. Do you know what I mean? This is one of those. Okay, I'm just gonna jump in.
Man, that's a wedge.
Yeah, it is a wedge. I thought, right, okay, but I think it's going to be a quick read. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Because they'll be like, oh, they're in a tournament and they're in these different leagues and stuff, and you'll get to know all the different teams and the different players.
It's like those phone book sized mangas, and you think, fucking hell, but loads of it is just like action. Which is what this seems to be. So it's one of those rare moments for me where the advertising completely worked, but it worked also because of the look and feel of the artwork. You know, that it's brightly coloured. The books themselves are like, you know, yellow cover, a magenta cover, a cyan cover. You know, the artwork's crisp and clear, not overly detailed, but it's kinetic. And yeah, Banana Sioule. Now it's spelled Sioule. So
sounds about right to me, man.
Forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong in some sort of way, but I think there's probably a lot of people listening now who might be like, yeah, I know about that. I read it in this language or I did something like that. But I discovered it this week and it just jumped on my radar. And I'm looking forward to it. You might hear me talk about it again
when it lands.
When we get to because it might be a fun sort of like a sports comic sort of episode. Do you know what I mean? I think there's an episode.
I love that future sports shit, man. I love it.
Yeah. So stay tuned. But that one was great.
Cool.
Dan, what's
I've got 2. So shall I go now? Dan sandwich, and then go at the end. Would that be right?
I love a Dan sandwich.
Like a fucking, it's like a tower burger of content.
God, tower burger of content. Delicious. Go on, Tony.
So this one is Cloudtown: Friends in Stormy Weather, which is by Daniel McCluskey, which is the
this
sequel.
Is a beautiful looking book.
Beautiful book, really, mate. Yeah, sequel to the original Cloudtown. 116 pages. A 7x10-inch book. He sent us the loveliest email. I reviewed Cloudtown, the initial book, and really liked it. This is quite a few years ago, I'm going to say, maybe 4 years ago. And this is the follow-up to it. But I got to meet Daniel at SPX. So because I was there with Falpy, and he just came over and ran and said, "Do you remember you reviewed my book Cloudtown? You know, man, how many books we talk about?" I went,
"Loads."
You're gonna have to remind me which one that was. Oh yeah, it was that one, and I remembered it straight away. But this, he sent it through. He's a listener. So he wished us a happy St. Patrick's Day. It's actually free to read online if you go to Studio Bean Can, so BEAN, studiobeancan.com. But he is also funding a Kickstarter for the printed version from the 1st of May. I signed up for this. It's going to be well worth it. Don't worry if you haven't read the first book. You don't have to. Completely standalone. It's just in this world, really.
Okay.
So it's a tale of the formative years of a girl called Naomi, set against a world that feels ordinary and everyday, but with school bullies and stuff like that. But she's a schoolgirl. But it's set in the Cloudtown universe with giant mechs, augmented half human, half dolphin children. In a city that's tethered to the earth but floating above it, but it's also got that sense of personality and humor about it as well, and the absurd. It feels almost at once to be a little manga and a little indie. So it sits a little bit in our indie world, but sits a little bit in the manga world as well. I think if I was going to say, right, who do I feel in the mix a bit? Scott Pilgrim, a bit of Astro Boy, Quite a lot. I looked up a couple of the sort of school mangas. Quite a little bit of that going on.
What hit me
There's
about
one-
some of this as I was reading it, I haven't finished the whole thing yet, is the certain autobio nature of it in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, because like the narration of it, which is beautifully done, are like torn out bits of a
Yeah, I was going to talk about that sort of stylistically.
lined notepad, and it just feels really personal.
Yeah. So for those that haven't seen it, it's not completely a mix of styles, but he throws in, like you say, Vince, almost like little diary notes or things that are happening that look like they're torn out of a school notebook. But also, as you progress in it, there's little school records that appear about Naomi's done this at school today. She claims this, almost like the report that the teacher's written as well, sort of a field trip or a bullying incident and stuff like that about her and this other girl. So Naomi's not had the easiest time in her school. She's been the targeting of bullying campaign, but also you sense that there's a little bit of the karmic justice going on because she herself has been a bit of a bully as well. And I loved that when he did that, because it's so easy to write unnuanced comics. There's kids understand that there's these sort of multifaceted characters and stuff, and you get a real sense of kids are being really cruel. They even made up a story about how when she's confronted by one of the big protectors, these giant protectors of their world, she's peed her pants, and which is at once kid funny, but at once tragic as well, and she says, no, this didn't happen, but they made T-shirts of it happening. And when she gets on the bus, all the kids are wearing these T-shirts. And the drama of the school, I think it's not quite high school drama. It's not quite, slasher horror. It's earlier than that. The kids, you get the sense the kids are sort of maybe 10, 11, something like that. But in this world, it's strange. So it's very much otherworldly. You get a sense that the clouds, there's a sentience to some of the clouds. She has a friend who's a cloud who gets stamped on by a couple of the bullies. But there's also these things called tiger squirrels, so these weird little squirrels that steal things. Scrappers, which are just the most bizarre cross between rats and snails. And they have a class trip. She becomes the center of the bullying in this class trip, and they head off. It makes it sound very dramatic, but it's not. It's done with massive dollops of humor. There's a real energy that I would compare to someone like Daryl Thorpe's work as well. There's this strange energy, but it's done with a funny style as well. They go on this school trip to Care Corp, who are the protectors of the island, and they also build and run the big robots and mechs and stuff like that. And there's this eccentric doctor called Dr. White, who is straight from 80s manga and 80s anime. The manga does it so well, don't they? They have these, scientists who are always shorter, squatter, with weird hair and big goggles or something like that going on. There's this really strange effect in it. I don't know if you've come to this page yet, Vince, where it looks like there's been a hole torn in the notebook, and it's leading into what looks like a black hole. Have you seen that page yet?
He does a lot of wonderful things, not just with the page, but like collage. Like towards the end, there's just a mixture of styles, and there's some bits where it's like post-it notes have been stuck onto the page with sketches that are working around things, and just that little, it goes beyond just.
Don't think of it as like Dave McKean, Bill Sienkiewicz collage. There's almost like a necessity to, like you say, like the post-it notes and the school reports and the torn pages and stuff.
It's for it's in service of the story rather than service of any artistic ego.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very true.
Like for instance, there's pages in this. I mean, one of the things that always made me smile was the behaviour sheets that come up.
Yeah,
they're almost like chapter breaks.
They work really well like that. Yeah.
And and there's I got to give props from a design perspective. There's a T-shirt design in this book, and there's a page that's selling that T-shirt. And it looks like it's been the advert's been done by someone doing it in Microsoft Paint. Do you know what I mean? You see the rest of the book, and it's so well put together. It looks like someone's done it for a school project, right?
Yeah,
I'm making an assumption there, but from the rest of the work, I know that it's an intentional, basic design. Does that make sense? You know
There's
what I mean?
he just throws stuff in there to,
Yeah.
but it doesn't stop the energy of the story either for me.
No.
It's lovely like that. I mean, this is not the sort of comic that's aimed at me. This is not the sort of comic that I would go and buy normally. But we've seen enough comics over the decades to be able to appreciate the craft, and I massively appreciate what he's doing here. There's a
the colour tones
to his art.
The colour tones completely won me.
There's black and white with a sort of purpley blue kind of wash to it, almost.
Which remind me of Space Mullet, Daniel Warren Johnson's
that's
Space
a good
Mullet.
one.
And then, but then it moves into sort of warmer. There's orange hues later on in the book, which is a nice sort of change. Which I think.
Yeah. So he's really exploring this world. I think it's quite an achievement because it's a massive book.
Yeah.
It says 116 pages. It's a good solid read. It's a great, if you've got a daughter of a certain age, this is a great book.
Yeah.
It shows all the sort of facets of growing up, and it's not easy, and triumphing over stuff and having fun and being on an adventure. And there's it's almost like Space Hilda a little bit to me. There's a touch of that going on somewhere. But yeah, so you can go to studiobeancan.com and read it. If you want to buy a copy, then please do go and sign up. I've signed up to the Kickstarter. If you look up Cloudtown Friends in Stormy Weather, you can find that on the Kickstarter, and that launches on the 1st of May, but it's already got a landing page you can go to. It's great stuff. Really just lovely, fun comics.
Yeah, go and check this out.
Cool. Nice one.
Dan.
My final one was a title I found on Global Comics during the week, called Emptiness by Sergio Carrera Presents. This last name's not Presents. That's what he's the book. It's a short comic, and it's a really nice one. Essentially, the story being there's a lone female, and she wakes up in the world and everyone's gone. There's no explanation to why. She doesn't.
The dream.
Yeah. No one to hassle me. Or you. And she kind of, it's her kind of, there's no speech, there's no kind of, her thought bubbles, the kind of the narration panels of like how she travels through the world and essentially starts shutting off because there's no one to talk to, there's no one to like, love, hate, anything, and she becomes a kind of a bit of a robot, not really sure why she's doing what she does. And then there's sort of an inciting incident, something happens, and the story ends with her maybe having a bit of a new beginning, a fresh start. But I was pondering if this happened to me, I don't know if I'd be able to hack it for very long, being in the world on your own. I think at some point you're like, man, this is
the novelty of it, I guess, would wear off quite quickly.
Rapidly, yeah. It's sort of, but it's a fun little read. It's on Global Comics. Go check it out. I tried to read sort of like a dozen or so titles. I don't know what you when I put on 10 on Global Comics. Often I'm overwhelmed the amount of fucking titles.
Yeah, I like to have a project. Like I did that Godzilla read this week.
Yeah,
I'll go on and look at like the ones that I've been reading, if there's any updates or if there's a new issue of something. I'll almost do that first. It's like waking up, having breakfast, doing your emails, doing this. It's almost like I load it up, check out this, make sure I put them to the top of the pile, and then I'll pound for gold a little bit.
Yeah.
And as you know, if you pound for gold, there's a lot of dirt.
A lot of shit. Yeah.
But you
a lot
will
of grit.
Yeah. There is some titles that I look at it and I think, why do I want to click on that? Because it's a car crash. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of like that looks awful. Why is my finger moving to click the thumbnail? Do I want to see what? Do I want to see how bad it is?
We talked about it with Boo, but like there's a fair few AI comics on there, and they're not labeled. They're not labeled accordingly.
They're slow. They were really good at that to start with, weren't they?
Yeah, they must be getting so much content on there that they're. I don't think they have a moderation team kind of checking it, but. Yeah. There's a lot of AI. They're supposed to be labeled because essentially they
demonetize them, don't they?
I'll send you a link to one that I just thought, what? That is about someone who's an adult baby.
Fuck me.
Oh mate, fuck me.
I'll send that.
That sounds like a wrong one, I gotta say.
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys read it instead of me.
Yeah, good. Send it straight away,
Yeah. Tony.
Last
What a
one.
show, eh? What a show.
Yeah,
Go on,
what a
T.
show. Last one, Black Star. This is fucking brilliant. 58 pages full color. This was a preview copy we got sent by the good folks at Alien Books. Have a look on the emails, guys.
Hey.
You'll find it. This is actually the first English translation of a comic from 1979. They're claiming. I haven't checked that. I haven't fact checked that, but that's what they're claiming. Created by Ricardo Barrera, who did Moving Fortress, and art by Juan Gimenez. You remember what he did? We have talked about him before.
Juan Gimenez.
We talked about him with Tom Curry, did the Meta Barons.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Fucking hell, man. Talk about your fucking top scale BD artist, heavy metal guy. It's got a new cover from Alien Books' and New Valiant's. I'm going to call him their MVP at the moment, Ariel Olivetti. He did a lot of the Bloodshot Black and White, that one. Edited by Martin Casanova and translation by Mauro Velez. So, what's the story? So the reader is taken to Palidon 4, aka Waste World, and it's one big city surrounded by sea. Basically, this massive, crammed in, huge city full of smog and vehicles and people. Now, I'm gonna, as soon as you realise what this is, let's call it homaging. Put your hand up. So, opens on a chase through the city. Police are chasing a man on a trials bike, and he's rescued by this blue-skinned man and offered an off-planet job, and he has to gather a team of a robot and a pilot. 979. The 979.
Yeah, I get it.
The hirer is called Braxtor, and the biker his name is called Speed, and you find out their names then. And they go to a bar to recruit someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. They recruit a
San Holo.
yeah. They recruit somebody called Vran, who's a humanoid robot, who's kind of a battle bot. And they also recruit a beautiful female pilot called Nadia, who just looks exactly like all the sexy women. There's a little princess vibe about it, but it looks like all the sexy ladies used to get whose tops fall off in Metal Hurlant years ago. Turns out, what's his name? Braxtor he got lost in space previously. He'd been pulled in by a gravity well into a star core and taken all the way to this uncharted planet. And the surface of the planet is full of other crashed starcraft. But the crews of all those ships have been zombieized. And he wants to go back there to an area space that is controlled by, get this, warrior monks. Yep, definitely not Jedi. Definitely not Jedi.
No, that's silly.
Yeah, so they board the Nemesis, a merchant ship that has hidden weapon arrays. You know, the ones where you sit in and you sort of swivel around and fire blasters?
Yeah.
And they get attacked by fighter ships, little ships that are like fighter planes in space.
Wow.
Right? And they shoot them all down. And
Wow, where do they come up with these
themselves a
fucking
little
ideas? This is amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. But then they land on this planet, and the thing about this book, they land on this planet, and there's this big fucking fight. They're in these big sort of space suits, and they fight off these zombies and stuff, and it is absolutely glorious to read. It looks so good. But through it, when I was writing notes about, sometimes you forget the names of people, so I always write them down in the little story points. And I'm thinking, it's just fucking Star Wars, man.
Yeah.
Just say it. Do you know what I mean?
Star Wars.
But it's not as if they didn't, Battlestar Galactica, fucking Battle Beyond the Stars. We had all these Star Wars type things that came out around the time, and I do not, we sort of Seeker 3000. We saw all this stuff going on in comics as well, and I don't give them. I'm fine with that. I'm fine, and especially when it's drawn by Jimenez, it's just the most beautiful thing in the world. It's a little bit over before it begins, so because it's only 58 pages, and they don't get to the planet till like 40 something, and then they've got to fight these zombies, get the prize, and then escape. So it's kind of a little bit. They spend a lot of time setting it up and getting the team together. It's coming out soon through Alien Books. Yeah, if this is what they're doing, they're finding all the hidden gems from Bond Dessinée books and then putting them out. I am massively behind it. So watch out for that. It's called Black Star. There you go. And that's my third one.
Nice.
There you go.
That sounds great.
Tons of comics tons of original comics
Yeah.
this week for you to go forth, check out, find out more about, and enjoy. And we hope you've enjoyed this week's episode and all the fun that we've had doing it. Please get in
Been
touch.
a bit of a mad week, actually.
Yeah,
Got a bit wacky.
Yeah. Please do get in touch if there's if you've got an upcoming book or anything you want us to shout out on the show or check out, etc., or a topic that you want us to discuss. And there's several different ways you can do it. You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on social media at awesomecomicspod on Instagram, at the awesomepod on X. And you can also check out some merch at acpgear.redbubble.com.
Yes.
Help support the show. And
thanks to Alan Lisker, who did a video wearing one of our t-shirts this week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice one now.
And thanks to you for listening, whether you listen to us via the Podbean website, awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, leave a review. Wherever you are, subscribe to the show, then you'll never miss a week of absolute nonsense and great comic talk. We're also on Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What other networks are we on, Tony?
We're on the Pod Network. It's still never not funny when Kermit gets a boner.
I mean, what can you do with that? Not the boner.
The boner.
But
It was going to be, why is it the responsibility of the youth in Asia to kill old people?
I think you could do it with the first
where can
one.
people find us online, etc.? I always do it. So
Me.
Tony.
Never on anything or Tony Ez, EZ on Substack.
Yes.
Dan the Man Butcher.
You can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com and on Global Comics.
Nice. And you can follow me on social media at Jester Diablo. Thanks very much to this week's guest and for you for listening, wherever you are in the world. We hope you're enjoying the comics you're reading and making. And if you're making a comic, let us know about it because we want to read it.
Yeah, please do.
We love talking about comics. So join us next week for more comics talk from everyone here in ACP Towers, where we've all gone a bit mad. I think there might be a gas leak or something because we've all gone a bit bonkers this week.
Carbon monoxide leak.
But don't worry, we'll be completely fine for next week. So join us then, and until then, we love you very much. Have a brilliant week. Keep reading loads of comics. And from Dan, Tony, and myself, what should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.